Yeah, I always say like Disney kind of ruined it for us because they made all these cartoons with all these talking animals that are really cute, and we just, we're like, well, we can't kill the, you can't kill the
We
cow, and you
can't
can't
kill
kill
them
the chicken because
anymore.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like our
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
right? And
But
it's
what
like,
about the crop deaths? They should make cartoons with, spiders and rabbits and deer being brutally murdered during the harvest season. So
yeah,
maybe
right.
then,
Yeah, but
so
it's
maybe
like
that'll even out.
and that's the fact of the matter is like there is no kill diet.
Fighting out of Sacramento, California.
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better. Stronger.
Son of a bitch.
Faster.
Oh yeah!
Are we recording? Okay, cool. So we're here with Dr. Sarah Zaldivar. Is that how you say it?
Correct. Yeah.
I get it right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got
and
it
so
right.
the reason I wanted to talk to you is because I'm always on social media looking through things, and I come across like, a photo of you. I think you were like standing on the beach or something, right? And I'm like,
Right.
who's this? And I'm like, carnivore. Like, wait a second. Like,
Yeah.
it's really rare to see women doing a carnivore diet. I feel like they're kind of afraid of it. They maybe think it's crazy, but you look fantastic. And I'm scrolling
Thank
through and I
you.
stop and I go, wait, that's so cool, right? And I want my brother Mark and I, we've been doing these kind of diets for a really long time, and we really believe in it. And we just like to push health to people. And the more people we can find that can attract other people to it, the better. It's like we want everybody to
Yeah.
be healthy.
I agree 100%. Every time I find out somebody's a carnivore, I get excited because I feel like it's a minority of people who've been exposed to this way of eating. And I feel that, like you said, women aren't generally, like, we're afraid of red meat
Yeah.
in general and of fat in general. So if I do come across somebody who's eating red meat, it's often a male, but I've noticed now a little bit more women in this sphere, and that's great, but not even close to enough, because I feel as you try a carnivore way of eating and as you learn more about it, you realize there is no turning back.
Yeah.
It all makes sense, right? And especially after you try it and you experience the increased energy, increased mental clarity, better mood, skin clearing. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There's no way I can remember every single symptom that got resolved.
Yeah.
So then it all clicks and it all makes sense. And then you start realizing that, well, the studies aren't being done because there's not enough financial incentive.
Sure.
Because you're not going to make as much money pouring money into red meat, right? You can't patent red meat.
Yeah.
So you're going to study all kinds of different foods, high fiber foods, high carb foods, because you can introduce them in different flavors and different packaging, and you can constantly be making tons and tons of money. And so that is how then you understand that even the science is incomplete, and you can only be limited by what people have bothered to publish so far.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm very excited.
And going through this like whole carnivore experience, so we got in early, so my story with carnivore is pretty crazy. So I moved to Los Angeles in 1992 to go to USC Film School. And when I moved to LA, I went to Gold's Gym, and it was around like 93 or 94. I was training with this guy, Mike O'Hearn, who's like a big fitness influencer.
Oh, I know him.
Power
Everybody
lifter,
knows him,
yeah.
I think.
And
Yeah.
I was really strong, so I was like able to go in and do squats and deadlifts with him. He was like into powerlifting at the time, and I think I was squatting like 600 pounds or something. And we had a trainer, and the guy's name was Ron Fedko. Ron Fedko is actually the head of computer science at Stanford now. He's like a really brilliant PhD. Yeah, he had his PhD in like physics and applied mathematics. He's just super genius. He actually ended up winning like Oscar, an Academy Award for special effects in movies. He figured out how to make like, water particles and all these weird things, that they used in some of the biggest movies in Hollywood. But
Amazing.
he was absolutely crazy, like totally obsessed with lifting and just like really focused in on it. And he was really ripped, and I was like envious of his physique, and I was a 240-pound fat kid from upstate New York, And
Right.
so I said, he said to me, he's like, you would be a really good power lifter, but you're just too fat. And he was really blunt about it. And it kind of like hurt my feelings, I'm like, oh,
Of course.
and he's like, you throw on your squat suit, because we used to wear these like tight suits. You look like a blueberry, he would tell me, because it was a blue squat suit, And I was just like embarrassed. I'm training with Mike O'Hearn, who looks like a god, and
Right.
this other guy who's shredded. And I said, I just don't know what to do. That's the problem. I'm like, I've been lifting forever. I can tell you everything about training, but I don't know anything about nutrition. And he just looked at me and dead in the eye and said, red meat and water. And I was like, what? He goes, red meat and water. And he's like, that's what I want you to eat up until your next competition. And I'm like, just that? And he goes, yeah, just that. Don't eat anything else. Not even a stick of gum. And I'm like,
So you were like 18 when that happened?
yeah, 19, I think. Yeah.
Wow, that is a very early introduction. You're very lucky.
And I was in college at the time, right? So I was broke.
Right.
So I would go buy. So I don't believe the excuse that you can't do this when you're broke. I was in college with no money. I mean, I worked at a bar. That was my only income. And I would buy these big 5-pound gross, like kind of logs of, 73-27 beef. And I would cook that up. And me and my roommate both did it, which was fun. So my roommate, he went on to become a strength coach at Montana State. So it was like interesting because he was like really into lifting and everything too. So we just had these giant slabs of beef in our freezer and a giant like mustard thing because like we had to put something on it. So we put like Gulden's mustard on it. And we would eat that every day. And so I went from 245 pounds down to like 196 on a carnivore diet, and I actually got stronger. And when people saw that, they were like, what are you, like, this is so crazy. What are you doing? So then, like, life gets in the way and things happen, and I went on and I made a couple films and stuff like that, and I just ended up, I was in
like
pretty good shape.
Stronger, faster, no small film.
Yeah. I was in pretty good shape for a while, but then, like I started getting in a lot of pain and everything started to hurt and I needed a double hip replacement surgery and all these things happened to me. So I went down this really bad path of drug addiction, alcoholism, everything because of pain, just simply because of pain. Completely.
So it all started with arthritis?
Yeah, I had arthritis at a very young age. I had my first knee surgery at like 16 years old. So I've always had issues, kind of like Michaela Peterson.
Yeah, I was about to say.
A lot of similar issues. And what was fascinating to me is I went into Gold's Gym one day, and the guy that I trained with then, this is only a couple years ago, he said, hey, had you heard this guy on Joe Rogan? He just eats meat. He's a doctor. He's really crazy. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound that crazy to me. I used to do that. And I immediately like went home and listened to the podcast, and it was Dr. Sean Baker. And as soon as the podcast was over, I got on Twitter. I'm like, let me see if this guy knows. Like the good, fortunate thing about Mark and I is like people know who we are. So I hit him up and I'm like, hey, would you like to come to our gym? Would you like to do an interview with my brother, whatever? And he was totally down to do it. But he said, I'd just like you to do the diet first for like 2 weeks. And I did it for 2 weeks and it was life changing. It really, like, I really love Sean just for the fact that he in 17 it was literally like the day after he was on Rogan. I'm like, boom, I'm back in,
Wow.
And I had only done it like back when I was like 19. I did it for about 3 or 4 years, like on and off. But then after I did that, I just stuck to like a low carb diet. Back then, nobody knew anything about like anti-nutrients. Nobody knew about like plant toxins. Nobody knew about seed oils. Nobody knew about any of this stuff. This stuff is all relatively, new information.
And that's very interesting that there wasn't as much information. I mean, I went through my whole education, not ever being taught about an anti-nutrient. I was like, what is an anti-nutrient? I had no idea until I picked up The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry, and he mentions them. And that was just a few years ago. It's quite shocking. So it's very interesting that you did a carnivore diet without all of this information that we have available to us nowadays, and it worked for you. Didn't you have any limiting beliefs like can I lift weights without any carbs? You know, all of the, especially for athletes.
In a great way, I was too stupid. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
I was in film school. I didn't really care about diving into learning about nutrition. I didn't, you know, I didn't want to see if there was anything else out there. He just said, hey, red
Yeah.
meat and water. What I found though, through working through the diet, is I don't think red meat and water is necessarily the answer. I think a meat-based diet is a better answer. And if you look at things like, you know, I like to pick apart things that people say, you know, so I look at the work of like Paul Saladino and he's like, oh, just eat meat, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And he does the nose to tail thing, whatever, and he'll say to not eat chicken, but there's actually more vitamins in chicken than there is in red meat, and there's more minerals in red meat than there is in chicken, right? So to me, it makes sense to eat all of it. And I love Paul. I've worked with him a lot, but I do a lot of times like disagree with some of the stuff that people push.
Yeah, I don't
like,
think you're ever, I don't think there's ever going to be somebody you're going to agree with 100% at all times. And that, in a way, that's good, because otherwise everybody would think the exact same thing. And we all have different experiences, and depending on your experiences, the podcasts you read, the books you read, all those things, you're going to have different variations. Like, for example, when I started doing carnivore and being intrigued with it, I was like, yes, Manuka honey, go for it. And Paul Saladino was talking all the great things. I was like, this is awesome. But recently, and this video is about to go up on my channel like this week, I did a complete U-turn, and I'm like, there's just no way, like, because it might be helpful, but if you're doing it for why I'm doing it, which is not just to feel your best and drop body fat and all those things, but also for anti-aging, to not get wrinkles when you're still in your 30s, and to not start seeing, you know, accelerated aging, then it's not going to be helpful to get all the methyl glyoxal. This is like the active component in Manuka honey, and Manuka honey has like the highest dose of that. So yeah, you're always gonna definitely not agree with 100% with everybody else, and you're gonna change your views as you go along.
I would really love to hear you, because this is great, because I've never really spoken to you before. I just like hit you up and like, hey, let's talk, because I like not knowing the story. So can you go over like how, as a woman, how did you get into all this? Like what sparked this? You know, were you in bad health? Were you just looking for an answer?
I wouldn't say bad health, like terrible, but like autoimmune conditions or things like that, but little things here and there, but a lot of them that overall lowered my quality of life. So always struggled with weight, always. Very difficult, you know, to drop body fat and maintain that. Acne, a real struggle. It actually, that my acne struggle is probably the thing that guided me into carnivore very long time ago. So when I was 18, I did everything, you know, birth control pills, spironolactone, 2 rounds of Accutane, 3 months antibiotic course for nothing worked except the spironolactone. But that's because it mimics like a low carb situation in the body.
Accutane
but
is
then
rough
it messed
too,
up
right?
my hormones.
Like Accutane is a really rough drug on your liver and stuff, I believe.
Yes, it's very high doses of vitamin A. It comes like with a warning, you know, all that kind of, and now it's pulled from the market.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, you can't, it's no longer on the market. So nothing worked. And because of that frustration, I came across Dr. Lauren Cordain. Dr. Lauren Cordain is like the grandfather of the modern paleo movement. And he was, the book name was called The Acne Cure. And I read it, and it basically talked about a paleo diet, and I did that, and it worked to a degree. It worked like 90% improvement compared to all the other drugs I took, but I still had like very, very little like whiteheads like under the skin. Like you can't, it's the color of the skin really, but like bumpy, you know, and that never really went away until I did low carb as well. So from, you know, paleo went into keto, and then eventually went into carnivore. And something you said earlier that I thought, it's what I say all the time. It's like, I did the worst possible thing. I thought that becoming a dietitian and, you know, doing my education in this field is going to shortcut my way to optimal health, you know, like I'll lose weight, I'll have perfect skin, I'll be like the best version of myself in record time. And that was the complete opposite of what happened. See, you got convinced on a carnivore diet like that. It was like, yeah, this is great, I'll do it. for me, it was very difficult to convince me, because here I am being brainwashed in traditional academia that any diet other than what the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics recommends, which is this high carb diet, you know, and all the grains and all the beans, any other diet is automatically labeled as a fad diet, even the diet that made us human, which is a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the hardest thing to accept. It took me a very long time. And the only reason I was able to come to this conclusion is because I just persisted in, like, I couldn't accept that I was always going to be pudgy, or I couldn't accept that I was always going to struggle with my skin. I was like, there has to be, I will try everything and I'll never stop trying. And that's why eventually, by reading the books and doing tons and tons of research, until finally, a decade later, not a little bit more, finally arrived at a carnivore diet.
Yeah, and when you saw the like carnivore, what like who was the person that you sort of saw, or like was there anybody that like influenced you specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to know like who was the exact first person, but I think it all happened at the same time, because once it was on my radar, maybe it was a Michaela Peterson on Joe Rogan, or her dad, Jordan Peterson, and then Sean Baker. But like I watched all those things, and they were all happening within the span of like a few months of one another. So it's difficult to pinpoint. And at the same time, I read The Plant Paradox also around that same time. So it all kind of happened together. It's almost as if it was one major theme that I became obsessed with and read upon, you know. And
I also have some you know, a little pushback on the carnivore diet myself too. You know, like people will say, "Oh, I did it and my arthritis went away," and it's like, no way. There's just like that doesn't like not my arthritis. You know what I mean? I've done it where I just ate red meat, water, you know, for 2 months straight, and like yes, I feel better, but it doesn't get. I mean, I have a lot of pain. I needed my hips replaced at 35 years old, so my arthritis is pretty bad, you know. And yes, it will go down when I'm on a carnivore diet, but by no means does it get rid of it. I still take stuff for pain. I try to use like natural products. Like I did a whole movie about kratom, because I think kratom is a great way to get out of pain with something that's natural, as long as you're familiar with the fact that, like, hey, too much of anything can be bad for you, right? Like if you take it all day long, yes, you can have a dependency issue with it. Some people get into that. I've never gotten into that. I take it, I get out of pain, I go train. To me, it's my favorite pre-workout. Like it's just a natural, it's a plant-based opioid that is just not nearly as strong as like Vicodin or Percocet, which I was addicted to, you know, for a long time. So to me, stuff like that is like a miracle, along with a carnivore diet. So I think it all kind of goes together. And then also, back when my brother and I were on Joe Rogan's podcast, I think like 3 or 4 years ago, and this was like after Sean Baker was on there, and he specifically had us on to talk about the carnivore diet. And he's like, I wanted to see what your guys' experiences are, because like, I've heard from Sean Baker and I want to hear, what you guys think. And I said, well, I've modified it. I eat meat and fruit. And I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan, but right now he's on this meat and fruit kick. And I think a lot of people, even Paul Saladino, are on this meat and fruit kick. And, my brother and I have been doing that for a long time, because what I found is that I don't really love vegetables, so I don't really eat many of them. I might have like a salad, like maybe a salad a week or something. I do think greens and fiber can be good for you. I know there is like one study that shows that people get rid of all their fiber, and then like everybody wants to use that study as like, whoa, there's one study that shows that. And to me, there's a lot of dogmatism in carnivore.
There is a meta-analysis on top of that. That's not the only study, but I'll share that with you.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
But I think like there is enough evidence that fiber could be beneficial, right? Like a little bit of it. Like I don't know that you need a whole lot of it, but like
it's not the worst thing that you can put in your body.
Yeah.
And
so
if you're not super sensitive to it, it's definitely better than going to McDonald's.
Yeah. And so like our friend Stan Efferding has this saying, compliance is the science, right? If you can comply, you can make it happen. And I was having a really hard time with compliance. Like I was literally eating as much meat as I wanted to, and I just felt like I needed an apple once in a while. You know, I
Oh,
said that
that's
on Joe Rogan. I said, if I could just have an apple, I'd be fine. You know, and then I started doing that and I realized like, oh, I don't get fat from eating an apple. You know, I
yeah,
don't, my back
yeah,
doesn't hurt when I eat an apple. And for some people
yeah,
that may be the case, you know. But for me,
yeah.
it was fine. And I did really well just on meat and fruit. So I've sort of continued to do that. And when I say meat and fruit, I usually throw fruit in just a couple days a week. Like I'll go to the store. I always have like apples and oranges at home in case I get hungry and I'll just grab one
Yeah,
and eat it. But I do
yeah,
like getting like some chopped up fruit and I'll buy that like maybe like once or twice a week and throw it into my
yeah,
diet. And then the rest of the time it's mostly red meat, you know? And mostly
yeah.
we have a meat sponsor, Piedmontese Beef, which has I should get them in contact with you actually. They have really lean beef, which is kind of cool because you know, sometimes you don't want all the fat, but if I
Yeah,
want all the fat, I'll just eat like a regular steak. But a lot of times
right.
I like to try to get in more protein and eat like leaner stuff. And I actually enjoy the leaner stuff a lot better. And it has enough fat to where it's good,
Yeah.
but not too much fat.
The wild versions of a lot of cattle actually don't have as much fat
Hmm.
as the conventionally raised ones. So you're kind of mimicking also a more natural form of cattle when you're doing that. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, if you ever
Um,
seen the Piedmontese cows, they're like ripped. They're muscular.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, they're
I'm gonna look
interesting.
them up.
Yeah.
Um, I do the same with fruit. So I went through a phase where I did just red meat and nothing else. And I don't have a strong enough reason to like not touch fruit. They don't affect me, and like I don't have an autoimmune issue or something that's getting affected by it. So I feel that when people kind of label me as a carnivore doctor, like I never set out to become a carnivore doctor.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do YouTube. I just wanted to be like a good YouTuber and think of great video ideas and do things that I enjoy while also monetizing it. And then because I was doing carnivore and I was talking about it, people really loved that. And so kind of like throwing the label on me, but I don't like to identify as such.
Yeah.
But when that happens, it becomes, if you kind of feel subconsciously like you're pressured to only eat meat. And if I want to eat something else, I think about it and I almost feel hypocritical sometimes. I'm like, wait a second, like, hold on. Just because I did videos touting the benefits of red meat doesn't mean I can't touch fruit, or I'll have a salad. Sometimes if I really feel like having a salad, I'll have it. It almost rarely ever happens anymore, but I'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I did notice with salads though that I do get soreness like the next day if I
Interesting.
train. It's strange. It gives me like more aches and pains, and then I'm like, wait, maybe I trained really hard the day before. And then now I've noticed like it's happened enough times to the point where I don't think it's the workouts, because I'm always training hard and I rarely take recovery days, maybe one day a week. So it can't be that. It has to be the fact that I had a salad,
Yeah.
some maybe nightshades or
And
something.
yeah, it could be. And then how do you feel about, because I know there's just such a big controversy and my brother and I have really been like digging to the bottom of this and I can't find any evidence that like seed oils are actually, you know, deadly or poison or any of
Yeah.
that. We've had several people on the podcast talking about it. I don't
Yeah.
consume them anyway because I don't have a lot of salads, but I was just
Yeah.
wondering what
Yeah.
you thought about it.
It's funny you say that because I have a student that I'm teaching right now, because I teach at a Miami-Dade College, an introductory nutrition course, and I have a student who is a devout vegan.
Hmm.
It's really fun when we meet every week,
Yeah.
and he's like into the science, anything I say, he'll pull up the study. But what about this study? But look at this meta-analysis, right? So it's fun. But at the same time, we were talking about seed oils, and I was talking how awful they are. Don't put them in their body. And he was showing me all of these studies that are showing that they're basically saying it's not the polyunsaturated or those inflammatory oils. But as a rebuttal to that, I actually dug into the research, and I promised him that I was going to show him the evidence. So I
Yeah.
was able to pull up a bunch of evidence. But it is true, like I could not find like one recent meta-analysis done with randomized controlled trials, which is the holy grail if you want,
Sure.
or like the best quality kind of study. It's true, we don't have RCTs or randomized controlled trials enough that look at it and show a negative effect. But we do have a lot of studies that show, for example, if you are depressed, your cells, the phospholipid, so your cells are covered by a fatty layer made of fat. And if you are in a state of inflammation, or if you have depression, that layer that surrounds your cells will have a lot more of those seed oils, those polyunsaturated. We call them specifically omega-6 fats. So it is true that we have a lot of studies like that. Like, there's a ton of those that show clearly that there's a lot of bias that would lead me to believe that omega-6 are not your friends, even in the form of a handful of walnuts. Even like if it's raw, you know, even if it's sprouted, all that kind of stuff, to lower anti-nutrients, you're still gonna get a whole lot of omega-6. And if you just look at the basic biochemistry of omega-6 and omega-3s, omega-3s are, everybody agrees, it's a great kind of fat, it lowers inflammation, we need more of that, wonderful. The problem is that omega-6 competes with omega-3. So if you think you just ate a 3-ounce wild-caught salmon fillet and it gave you a bunch of omega-3s, but then you had a handful of walnuts, the omega-6 in the walnuts is most often going to compete with the omega-3s that you just ingested. So you're not really going to get the anti-inflammatory benefits from the omega-3s. And so that is the problem. The problem is not that omega-6 are terrible. If you don't get any omega-6 from your diet, you're not going to be able to heal a wound. You're not going to be able to regulate your blood pressure. You're not going to be able to launch like a recovery after your workout. You need some level of inflammation to do that. All those things are needed, right? And you do that with omega-6. The problem is that Americans are eating 20 to 25 times more omega-6 compared to the omega-3. That's the issue.
Yeah. It's
so
the ratio's way off.
Exactly.
So, that's actually interesting, because I don't think I get enough omega-3s. It's something like I always consider. One of the greatest minds in the history of human performance, I think, is Charles Poliquin, who passed away like a couple of years ago. He was a trainer. He trained 19 gold medal athletes in different sports in the Olympics. He's just like, he spoke like 10 different languages. He had a library of every single thing ever written about sports, like training. Like, he had this gigantic library of like all these things that he's read about, training. He's invented a lot of the training things that we do now. And he would always recommend like high doses of fish oil to athletes. But I've always been like cautious of fish oil. Like, is it, snake oil? Does it really have these benefits? Should I be taking fish oil? Should I be eating more fish? Like, I don't really like fish. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I get these omega-3s in? What should I be doing? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I think it's not like, I'm not going to say, yes, you must go and take supplements of fish oil as like everybody should be doing that. I'm not going to say that. And the reason for that is because the vast majority of fish oil supplements on the market are easily oxidized.
That's what I get into. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're basically taking in supplements of rancid oil. You do not want that. That's the worst thing you can do. Now, there are omega-3s in things like brain, for example.
Yeah.
In that biologically active form, because you don't want to get omega-3s from a plant source. It doesn't really convert to the biologically active form that you can find from animal food sources. Now, either take organ supplements if you just want to be sure you're not deficient in omega-3s, or I think more importantly than worrying about omega-3s is worrying more about your omega-6 intake. Because if you lower the omega-6 enough and you get high quality meat, you're still going to get some omega-3s from there. And so that can balance out the ratio. It's that ratio. It's kind of like a dance between those two fats. So once you perfect that, then you have optimal health. I know there's tons and tons of studies and omega-3s showing great benefits, and I do get excited about it a little bit. The only thing is, whenever we're talking about something that can be supplemented, the reason there's so many studies is because there's a lot of potential monetary gain. And so there are a lot of companies that get equally excited,
Yeah.
but because they want to eventually sell you their product. So it's difficult. It's difficult to tell with 100% certainty if everybody needs to supplement with an omega-3 or not. I err on the side of caution, and I do like to make sure my omega-3s are high, so I do that.
What
but
do
I
you
don't do it
supplement with?
fish oil.
You use fish oil?
Yeah, no, don't do it with fish
Oh.
oil. Krill oil. Krill
Krill
oil is
oil.
better, or cod liver oil. But if you're gonna do cod liver oil, then we run into another issue, because it seems that a lot of recent brands of cod liver oil, through a process of refining, they're stripping out the vitamin D, and then sometimes they go back and resupplement the vitamin D, sometimes they don't. If they don't put back the vitamin D, you're in big trouble, because now you have too much vitamin A. With
Gotcha.
very little vitamin D, you run into vitamin A toxicity, and people are now scared about, vitamin A toxicity. It's not that it's a problem, it's a problem only because you need vitamin D to balance it out. So that's the only caveat here that I would give out for cod liver oil. Just pay attention which brand. I should probably do a video.
You know,
just
it's
saying
funny
exactly,
because
do
it's
the
like really
research and tell
hard
you
to
exactly which
find these
brand.
things, right? Like I've actually been to like every supermarket in my area, and I've
Yeah.
actually been trying to get like cod liver, like actual cod liver,
Awesome.
because I hear it's really good. Now you can get it on Amazon and stuff, but you know, the convenience of trying to get some of these things is difficult to find, like a high quality krill oil. It's like
True.
it's just a, you know, it's kind of a hassle, right, to get some of these things. I'm trying to
True.
like,
It has to be third party verified. Like, I rarely ever buy something from a grocery store here. I'll usually do it online, and I'll make sure that it's third party verified by
interesting.
like True ID, or Consumer Lab, or USP, or NSF. Those are like the big
Yeah.
companies that come in and make sure that
They
the
actually
quality
check
and
on the
brand.
supplements to make sure they're
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
because it's beyond the FDA's scope of practice for them to do that. It's not their
yeah,
responsibility. They don't do this stuff.
I'm kind of the theory, like I don't take a lot of supplements. I don't really believe in, you know, supplements, but
Mhm.
you know, especially with what's going on, like, you know, everybody's talking about supplementing vitamin D and all this stuff like that, but do you
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on vitamin D. I feel like we've come to this conclusion that like um people can take all the vitamin D they want. I don't think it's going to make them healthy. I think healthy people have better vitamin D levels, but I'm not sure exactly why,
Yeah, you
you
could
know?
make that argument, given that vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. And so if you're taking supplements, but you still have excess body fat, then you're going to sequester that vitamin D. Is going to be taken up by your fat cells. It won't really be biologically active. It'll be stored in your fat cells. So there are a lot of things that could affect your need for vitamin D. And just because you have high blood levels of vitamin D doesn't mean it's actually biologically active. Now, ideally, we would want everybody to be outside,
Yeah.
being exposed to sunshine, right? And that would be the best possible scenario. But since we can't all do that, then the next best thing would be to get a vitamin D lamp that would kind of mimic sunshine.
Oh, I didn't even know they had those.
They do. Yeah, I can send you links for sure.
Yeah, I would love to see that because that sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because the form of vitamin D that you create upon exposure to UVB rays is different than the kind of vitamin D that you take in a supplement pill. One is water soluble, the other is fat soluble. So that would be the second best thing. The third best thing, in my opinion, would be to supplement with vitamin D. I'm still of the idea that it's good because I've had a personal experience with that, where and also genetically, like I have a mutation in a vitamin D receptor, meaning for me, I need a little bit more vitamin D than somebody else without that vitamin D mutation. So for me, I haven't been sick for 9 years, and I'm
Yeah, I
pretty sure
saw
it's
that on
because
your
of,
Instagram. 9 years,
yeah,
no flu, no nothing.
no flu. Yeah, it was a video that I did, and I shared it all. It was a YouTube video. It says something, I haven't had flu in for 9 years, and I also shared it as a thumbnail on my Instagram. And there are so many explanations for that. I believe the keto thing, because that's really when I started doing low carb, and then the carnivore thing are two major reasons. but also the vitamin D, because when I came to Miami, I was severely deficient in vitamin D. And your traditional doctor, like at the student center, basically recommended that I only take 800 IUs, which is
Nothing. Yeah.
almost nothing.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I didn't take her advice, and I did my research, and I did 10,000 IUs for a 3-month period. And only with that was I able to bump it up just a little bit, you know? And so now I just take 5,000 IUs per day as a maintenance dose. So for me, it's worked for me. Now, I think different. I think Dr. Paul Saladino has some content on that where he talks about not supplementing and making sure you're getting it from the UVB rays. I definitely would agree with him that that would be optimal, but I also know that I'm not going to be doing that. Like I have to be, doing podcasts and preparing videos and doing things like that. So I just kind of do the second, third best thing that I am capable of doing at the time. And also, one last thing, we're not going to say the name because we still are getting, we're not going to say what happened the past 2 years. You know what I'm talking about, the thing that's been going around the world.
Yeah.
That we can't talk.
Yeah, you get in trouble. Yeah.
We get in trouble. I'm still traumatized. They gave me a warning on my channel because I did a video about a diet to strengthen your immune system. And it had the name that in the title, and I got a warning. They took it down, and thankfully it wasn't a strike, but I was like, you know what, it's not like I set out to be, I love health and stuff and I always talk about it, but I'm not gonna, like, I can talk about other things. So I took it down, and I took other videos related to that as well down. So
yeah, it's not even worth it to get involved, right? It's like,
right,
yeah,
I wasn't gonna accomplish anything other than maybe being banned.
I did get sick one time for like 1 day recently. I haven't been sick. Same with you, like you. I haven't been sick for I can't even remember how long it's been since me or my brother Mark were ever like sick, because we do the same diet and training and everything. So we haven't been sick in a really long time. Knock on something. But I did get sick for like a day, and then it just it literally just went away. So I don't know. My vitamin D is always cranked up. My vitamin D is always like 80. I know that
How do you get it so high?
What's that?
How do you get it so high?
Well, I do take like one 5,000 IU pill a day usually, just because like I'm brainwashed and like I feel like, oh, I got it. Everybody's saying to take this, but I really kind of don't believe in it. But I do that, but I also walk a lot outside, and a lot of times, like even if it's kind of cold, I just take my shirt off and I walk a lot, like around by our gym and stuff. And so then, like in the summer, every single day we're out, with shorts and our shirts off. So like that's really good for you. Like we walk a lot. I do probably 20,000 steps a day, and I do it with no shirt on. So I think that that's a big deal of getting like vitamin D, on your actual skin. And they also say, I know from like Dave Asprey and some other people have like looked into it extensively. Like they say to get it on your, on your body, not just like on your face, not just on your arms, get it on your body, because it's like the biggest target. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just what people have told me. So I figured why not roll with that. And so, yeah, usually every time I get my vitamin D checked, it's usually pretty high. Also like being on a carnivore diet, and I know it's not like, doesn't mean that you're invincible or anything. And sometimes your HDL can be too high, but my HDL was like 97 on the last test, which is really high. It's kind of crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My doctor's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just eating meat.
HDL. Huh?
This was like during World Carnivore Month too. So I might've just been cranking through like a bunch of meat, but my doctor was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just eating meat. That's all I do,
I don't think I've ever heard anybody's HDL being at 90.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's 90 something. Yeah. A 96 or 97 it was. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. That's almost 100.
Now my LDL was also really high, like 180 or something, but my triglycerides were like 37, right? So now we get into this whole cholesterol debate, and it is,
yeah.
And I'm just not really sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I would not worry about that at all. Especially since the fact that your triglycerides are so low, like this is a much stronger predictor for risk of heart disease than your total and LDL cholesterol levels. for your LDL cholesterol level, even it's not even that high. I know it is high compared to the American Heart Association's guidelines, but it's definitely not high. I would be much more worried if your LDL is actually too low, because based on multiple studies, meta-analyses, I think it was like what, 26 out of 27 meta-analyses, they showed that if and this is Dr. Paul Mason that I'm getting this from. He has a lecture about that on YouTube, Low Carb Under YouTube channel. Check it out. Gems of information. So he goes over the literature and he presents all of these meta-analyses. A meta-analysis is even better than an RCT or randomized controlled trial. It's like the gold standard of the gold standard quality type of study. And it showed that having a very low LDL cholesterol, and the lower your LDL cholesterol, the higher your chances of premature death.
Yeah.
Right.
They have that, also have like a like some sort of study that, like, at the time, like, I think 75% of the people that had a heart issue, like a heart attack and died, they had like low cholesterol,
Normal.
like under 200. And you're like, well, if the
Exactly.
mass majority had under 200, what are we doing here? You know, I don't know. And then I'll talk to other people. Like, I love Dave Feldman. I think he's a great guy. You know who he is? He does like a lot of cholesterols.
Into like he focuses on research for the heart and carnivore diets.
For cholesterol, yeah. And then I love his work, and I kind of believe in a lot of the things he says. And then, you know, we had this other guy on my brother's podcast, and I was on it also. And we brought up Dave Feldman, and the guy like flipped out, and he's like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah. And then this guy starts whipping out all these studies, and I'm not scientifically inclined enough to argue with the guy. You know, I just go, I'm a very, I'm a film guy. Like, I'm a very common sense person. But I do ask a lot of questions, you know, like I ask a ton of questions. I think a lot of the things that we've been talking about, I don't mean to ever shoot anybody down. I pretty much love everybody. I don't ever mean to shoot anybody down. But what I try to do is really shoot holes in the carnivore diet. Like, I'll read Sean Baker's posts, and I'll go over it and over it and over it to try to see if I can debunk it, because I'm not to debunk him at all, just to see, like, you know, like a good scientist is rigorous in their, like, finding the truth, right? And
that's the goal of a good scientist, to debunk their own hypothesis.
And as a documentary filmmaker, like, that doesn't, you know, work for Netflix, I'm trying to be unbiased and trying to be somebody who tells the truth and digs down, you know, into the truth. Like, recently I had this girl tell me that her mother died from kratom, you know, and I'm like, I need to see the autopsy. I need to see everything. And then you see the autopsy, and you see a litany of other drugs in the system. She said, oh, she had no other drugs in her system. She died from kratom. And then there's like 10 other drugs in the system. There's brain swelling from alcoholism. There's lung swelling from alcoholism. Like, and you're going like, okay, like, I'm really trying to help you. Like, I feel terrible for this girl, and I'm trying to help her. But I think, you know, people see things one way, and they don't ever want to change.
She might not know.
And I'm more curious in, like, really finding the truth. I think there's real value in really finding the truth, and I don't think enough people do that. They just like, I see some ridiculous carnivore posts, and, you know, a lot of times I just don't. I'll just, it's not even worth saying anything. But, you know, you'll see things where people will literally write, seed oil is poison, and you're like, well, you know, come on, you don't really know that. Like, let's not scare people. Let's tell people, hey, seed oil may not be good for you, but we know that Nuance doesn't sell either. So you have to see something crazy and outrageous, you know.
I get it too, and it's sometimes you get into like you're so believe like your belief in that thing is so strong that you just want other people to realize how important this issue is, and so you might say something like that. And but yeah, like when you go and you dig up the research, well, show me recent meta-analyses that show that. And sometimes when we are too much in our own little world talking to other carnivores, it's difficult because we're not exposing ourselves enough to the counter argument, right? Like, or the other vegan doctors, you know.
I watch all the vegan doctors. I watch Mike the Vegan, and like, I almost like can't stand how snarky the guy is, right? I don't know if you know who he is, but
Of course, I
at the
know
same
it.
time, I really value his information. Like, I want to see where he's coming from. I want to dig
Yeah,
down into his truth, and obviously, he's very biased towards what he believes, and
yeah,
won't budge on it at all. But
yeah.
I'm
No,
kind of
he's
somewhere
definitely
in the
cherry
middle.
picking. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's definitely cherry picking. Here's the thing. If we only are if the science was there in nutrition, we wouldn't have debates between carnivores and vegans,
that's
right?
a great
So
point.
all of
Yeah,
this would be, it wouldn't mean anything because we'd have the basic science to prove it. The problem in nutrition, you can't do that because it is not a basic science. You can't go into a lab, get a petri dish, and do all the stuff and have a result that you have a very high level of certainty about. You can't do it. And the optimal diet, the optimal nutrition study to do would be to get twins
yeah,
since birth, regulate everything around them, including the light, including the hobbies that they engage in, the activities, everything for life. Put them in a metabolic ward and make sure they're eating exactly the diet that you want to give them. Let's say a carnivore diet or a standard American diet or a vegan diet or whatever it is you're trying to study against, and then see what happens. Obviously, this is never going to happen. And
yeah.
this is why nutrition is not just a science. We use the science as a tool, but if we are limited by what the science only says, nobody has bothered to study a carnivore diet, like
Yeah.
a real random.
Well, and
Nobody
it's
has.
too expensive too, and it's too hard, right? Like they did that one metabolic ward study in like 1930, where the two
With
guys like
Stephenson.
locked themselves in a thing and
Yeah.
ate meat for a
Yeah,
year.
that's the only one that's true.
Yeah.
But again, it's only 2 years, so it wasn't really,
I would totally volunteer for that if somebody like compensated me for it. I'd be down for it.
yeah.
Like it
I
sounds
think a
fun.
lot of people would be excited to do that, a metabolic ward. Maybe like even if you can just get people in for 6 months, like that would be so amazing, the results of that study. Get a vegan, a carnivore, a Mediterranean diet. Everybody's so in love with the Mediterranean diet. Can
Yeah.
do that. Standard American diet. Lock 4 people up and put them in for 6 months in a metabolic ward study and see. That would be amazing. I think a lot of people would volunteer for that.
Yeah, I do like the Mediterranean diet as far as like at least it's got some like nice variety and some good foods in it, right? Like it's but I don't think it's the best diet. I just think, and I used to say this, like, I think that if you like, I don't know, I feel like if a whole food vegan, like they eat whole foods, they're whole food vegan, and they just added some eggs, which are like, I don't
Yeah,
know, people go crazy about that, but there's like, they're not really harmful to the chicken. Like
yeah,
chickens lay eggs anyway, right? Like, and they're just
true.
unfertilized eggs. So I feel like if they just added eggs, that could be very, very healthy. But they just deny that part of it, and then they
Yeah,
have these like hemp protein shakes instead and things like that.
true.
And I
It
just
could
don't.
be helpful. It could be healthier for somebody with good genetics. If somebody has good genetics with no potential for autoimmunity, it might be better for them than a standard American diet where you're eating, McDonald's. I'm talking a lot about McDonald's today
Yeah,
for whatever reason, that kind of stuff, or Snickers and things like that. But for somebody like Michaela, a whole food vegan diet would not have worked, right? So it depends, but I think you're right in the sense that the vast majority of people don't have such a sensitive immune. They have defenses against those anti-nutrients for a long enough period of time.
the interesting thing
So
is I see people like in the same condition though as Michaela that do a vegan diet and they claim the same thing, right? Because pain
really,
is
yeah,
subjective. It's just like, what do you think? And so they're like,
they claim that their pain has went away on a whole food vegan diet. I
yes,
think also
absolutely. I
Terry
see it a lot.
Walls. Are you familiar with Terry Walls? She reversed her multiple sclerosis on a whole food plant-based diet, very high
No.
in micronutrients. Yeah, she's a medical doctor who got MS and literally got it to a point where she was in a wheelchair and she was able to reverse it.
I may have seen
That's,
like does she have YouTube videos or something?
yeah, she
Maybe I
has
may
like
have seen
short
it.
hair, very well known.
Huh.
Terry Walls, Terry Walls, WAHLS.
Yeah,
The
I'll look her
Walls
up.
Protocol is her book, her thing. And she was actually on Dr. Paul Saladino's podcast. I
Oh, cool.
remember watching a little snippet of it. And I think it has to do with the micronutrient density. When you but again, like she went from a traditional like standard American diet to that. What would happen if she went from that to a carnivore diet? You see, that's the other question. Or the other people that are getting better, let's say, on a whole food vegan diet, what would happen if you put them on a whole food animal based diet? Those are the questions that we need answered. Because I see a lot of people doing better on a vegan diet, but that's only because they came oftentimes from
Of a really bad diet. Yeah.
exactly. So that was a step in the right direction, but it wasn't the full step, you know? So those are the kinds of things that I think about.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? The micronutrient thing is potentially, you know, like just boosting your vitamin and mineral.
I had a question about that too. Like I have a lot of people ask me about things like, because in my mind, right, some of the most popular supplements in the world are athletic greens. And then they have like, if you watch the news ever, they have tons of commercials for like Balance of Nature, which is like these plant, there's like, it's got over, 50 vegetables in each serving or something, some crazy thing like that.
I see them on YouTube ads, things of that nature a lot.
And I just wonder like, well, why wouldn't you, why isn't somebody like Paul, for example, like that's what they should be advertising, right? Like we don't absorb the nutrients as well from plants. So why would you take a plant-based greens when you could take an animal-based formula of vitamins and minerals that would seem to be a lot more absorbable, right?
You're saying that Dr. Paul Saladino should run ads on his Oregon supplement brand.
Well, like I'm sure that's like also a money thing, but I think people wouldn't believe it. Like I think if Paul came on and he's in excellent shape and he said, "Hey, buy my supplements. Like it's got all the vitamins and minerals and it's from liver," people would be like, "Ugh," like you know what I mean? It's like a weird. I think we have a knee jerk. We've been brainwashed into like fruits and vegetables, which I don't think are bad for people, but I don't think it's the best thing,
Yeah, they're not bad for most people. Is because they're giving you vitamins and minerals and those micronutrients, which is a huge part of your health. I agree. I think also maybe because Dr. Saladino, I mean, this all just happened very recently. This
it's new. It's new, yeah.
So he needs to get to a point where he's making like enough profit so that he can afford.
Well, he just needs to get back on Joe Rogan again, and then he'll be able to afford to do that, right? Like that's how.
I think his Instagram went down though.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. That happened.
Second time, and it's still not up.
Oh, it's not back up again.
It's not back up again. We're being censored, everybody. So
yeah. Well, he is a little pushy, and so is Dr. Baker. But I think we need that. Like I think if I'm pretty like I don't go crazy on social media about stuff. I think if I did, I'd have way more followers. Like if I just said like blunt things about like carnivore and was like full blast into it, I think I'd have a lot more followers, but I just can't do that. Like I have to No,
I think you're doing the right thing. I have a fiery like personality. Like I'm like blunt too in the way that I'm thinking all the time.
That's how I am. Yeah, but I don't say it.
Exactly. Yeah, I choose to not do that because it's very easy. I get, and sometimes I have to like not even be on Sean Baker's Instagram sometimes because I get excited. Like I want to reshare stuff.
Yeah.
But I need to kind of calm myself because if you want to reach much larger swaths of people, if you want to have more influence, it's never been like you can't achieve that by being so fiery from a very from the get-go. I think you have to kind of every now and then like you can show people like your real thoughts about something, but as long as it's not all the time, because if we get canceled, then who benefits? If you don't have enough carnivore doctors talking about this, then nobody wins. But even if it takes us, let's say 10 years instead of 5 years, I'll take that over being completely canceled and not, people aren't going on Telegram just yet, unless you have a severe autoimmune disease, but that's a small minority of the population. I want to reach 100% of the population, know? So I do what you do.
Basically. Yeah, you need to be a little bit smoother with your message, right? Like if you're going to try, like I don't think it's cool to like compare, like here's my physique and here's a vegan doctor. And it's like, Well, who,
Yeah, I
like, let's
know.
see all your
It's
blood work
tempting
too.
though, because we always win.
Well, let's see your blood work too. Like, that's another thing, right? Like,
True.
or maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that guy can run further than you. Like, I don't think those are good
Yeah. But I
necessarily.
do
Like,
think there's something to be said about that. Like,
I
I
think
think
it's
that
funny when
if
I see
you're
it.
gonna go out and be fiery and come at us and criticize the carnivore doctors and do all these videos talking about Dr. Sarah Zaldivar doesn't read her references, or being all
Do you
snarky,
get a lot of
show
pushback?
us what you got.
Do you get killed a
Huh?
lot on social media?
I was on plant-based news. Lifting Vegan Logic, the Nutrivore twice.
Oh, the
I
Nutrivore is Nick Hebert, right?
who?
Nick.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
what they
one.
tell me.
That's the guy. That's the guy that went crazy about Dave Feldman. But I also like,
Oh,
the other thing that's
oh, the
that
guy. No, the guy is not.
yeah. So the
He's
other thing
like
that's
he
hilarious is
didn't
that
even understand the study that I was talking about. He pulled up something like, no, he's not into. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
so
Basically.
that's what I'm saying is like, so we had him on the podcast
Mhm.
and he just was like, I mean, he was pretty ruthless. Like he wasn't, I don't think he's a nice person. You know what I
No,
mean? Like, I'm like, this
he
guy's
has no
this,
interest in health. His interest is not to eat animals. That's his interest, and he will cherry pick all the information possible to drive that. His main interest is not health
well,
at
we
all.
had Kevin Bass come here and Kevin Bass writes a lot of crazy stuff on Instagram. And Kevin Bass and I got along so well. I think he's a great guy. He's cool to talk to. And like he came around on a lot of stuff. He's like, you know what?
Really?
This is really interesting. Like what you and Mark are saying is really interesting. Like I gotta look this up. I gotta get into this,
Yeah.
gotta get into that. So like it's not like he completely did a 180 or anything, but he just like
Yeah.
I got some things from him, he got some things
Yeah.
from me, and we moved on, right?
You're a good you're in a good place, because you're it's not like they're targeting you, making videos against you, and then you have to talk to them, right? You're like in a kind of like you're Sweden.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I
So, and
want to
that's
be, right?
cool.
Like that's perfect,
That's perfect.
you know?
Keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
Yeah, and trying to like get both. My thing is like trying to get everybody involved, inclusion, right? The reason I have wanted to talk to you is because you're a woman. I don't see a lot of women. Mark and I just went to
True.
the Hood in Atlanta, and we were like with we're helping a rapper named Killer Mike. Killer Mike's awesome. He's
Okay.
in Run the Jewels is his band, and he's an amazing guy. And it was so interesting because uh we went to like where he lives in Atlanta. He still lives in the same area that he grew up in, and he's trying to like revitalize the community. And we were like out walking on a track, and we're the only white guys there, and it just felt so cool to be like, I'm like, wow, this community really needs help. Like they really need this stuff. They really need to. So we're teaching him about a carnivore diet, more like the diet we do, like fruit and meat, because he's on the road a
Yeah.
lot. He's always traveling.
Hyper carnivore diet.
And
That's
it
what
was
it's
so
called.
interesting though to like be like I said, be more inclusive. Like we're talking to the whole Black community about health and fitness, and I'm like, I've never got the opportunity to do that. Like I'm not
That's
around.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm just not around those groups of people very often,
Right.
right? And so to be able to spread that message in a different community feels just so nice. Like feels like I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing good things, and it's very simple. Like he took us to a barbecue place because he wanted to give us a challenge. Like we said, take us anywhere to eat, and we'll show you what to eat there. And so he's like,
Okay.
I got this place, and he takes us to his barbecue place, and we're like, oh, no problem, blah blah. We just ordered a ton of different meats and collard
Yeah.
greens, which I never had before, which actually was was fun. And we ate all this stuff, and it was amazing. And then at the end of the meal, he's like, I can actually eat like this. I'm like, you can eat like that every day. Like I don't recommend like going to like barbecue, like don't dump a bunch of sauce on it. Don't put anything
Right.
on it. I recommend
Right.
that you cook at home. It'd be way better for
Right.
you. But let's do the best that we
True.
can because you're
True.
busy and you're on the road and you want to lose a bunch of weight. And it's been just really great to work with somebody who's also like so appreciative of it. Like, oh, I never knew this. Like,
Yeah.
I never knew
He's
that. And like,
receptive.
he watches like a lot of the Instagram stuff and he just gets confused. So Mark and I were like, well, let's just go
Yeah.
there. Let's just go help him,
Yeah.
you know? and it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of conflicting information on social media, and the truth is there is no, and that's what my students always tell me by the end of the semester. It's like, oh my gosh, like who do we believe then?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there is no easy way. Just like in anything in life that you want to perfect, there is no easy way. Like just listen to that person, and you'll get your answer. You have to do the research, and you have to do what you're doing, asking all these different people and challenging them. Like if there's something that just ask about those things.
I also think it's good that I don't have any financial ties to any of this stuff either. Like if I was pushing a book or pushing like a program or pushing like my practice, like I don't have anything to sell you. So it's like I'm just doing this because this is what I'm interested in, and all the people that I help. What's that?
Even if you did, when you're doing something out of passion, I can tell that what you do is because you're fulfilled and you're doing something fulfilling. And the same way that I choose to do YouTube, I mean, there's so many things I could be doing to make a lot more money. We're choosing to do those things because these things fulfill us. If I tell you the amount of brands that I don't get back to or don't work with because they're all kinds of like packaged foods that's not what I do. That's not what I recommend.
Yeah.
I could be making tons of money, but yeah, like it doesn't have to be just because you have a book doesn't mean
you
the
have
reason
to like
you wrote
use
this book
you have
is
to
because
use
you
the
already
product.
are so excited about this thing.
So like Mark and I just went to the Arnold, and what was really awesome at the Arnold was that
so cool.
Piedmontese beef, we basically we got them into the fitness business because they have lean beef. Like bodybuilders hate eating tilapia and chicken breast.
Yeah.
And some of the Piedmontese steaks are leaner than chicken breast. So it's like, why not eat red meat instead of eating chicken, right? Or just at least have the option to eat red meat instead of chicken if you buy certain cuts. So we were literally at the only booth that wasn't selling like a packaged product. Like we were selling meat, we weren't selling it. We were just hanging out at the booth talking to people. But that's very fulfilling. Like I had a guy come up to me who he was an amputee. He had one leg, and he came up to me and he was crying, and he said I changed his life. He was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and basically started following me on like Instagram. And he had a battle with childhood cancer, and that's how he lost his leg. And so he was just severely depressed for a long time. So he started taking kratom, doing carnivore, doing all, started lifting all the stuff that I do. And he deadlifted 500 pounds with one leg, which is amazing. He's obviously got a prosthetic, but like, that's pretty crazy to be able to like inspire. Like I cried when the guy was telling me, because it's just like,
of course.
And none of these people, like I don't charge any of these people. It's just because we love to do it. We love to help them.
So I know we didn't talk about the time, so you let me know with the time how you're doing, okay? But I wanted to ask you about how did you pull yourself out of addiction, because this is something that people really struggle with.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
I think that people's environments and surroundings are very, very important. I have a family that's very supportive of me. I was really scared to tell anybody that I was, doing, I was doing opioids, and it just got out of hand because I was in a lot of pain, and it started out as pain, but then it just turned into fun. Then it turned into mixing opioids with alcohol, and it just got to be very, very dangerous. And I got to a point where it just couldn't go on anymore. And then actually what was really interesting is I met a girl, and that was it. Like I met this girl that I really liked. I didn't want her to know that I was an alcoholic or anything, but then we started dating. And then after we started dating, I was like, hey, I need to tell you something. I have a problem with alcohol. And she's like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, every day, every like time you leave, I'll just take a bottle and just chug it. And she's like, oh my God, like, what can we do to fix it? And so like, since she wasn't upset and she said, how do we fix it? I was like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. And basically, my brother got involved, and I went to rehab to fix it. And I just felt so guilty and shamed, and like I was in trouble. And I think that's important. Like a lot of people don't have any, like if you don't have a good support system or good family, you don't care. Yeah. Like you're down and out and depressed, and you're like, screw it, I don't care. So I had a good support system that helped rally around me. The other thing is I was in the middle of making my second film, Prescription Thugs, which is about basically about the opioid crisis mainly, but really about prescription drug companies and how They pay off all the politicians, and obviously we're seeing a lot of that stuff going on now, which is insane. But like I was in the middle of making this movie and I relapsed. So I had been clean for quite a while, and then in the middle of making the movie, I kind of relapsed on drugs and alcohol. And that's when I'm like, I got to go to rehab. Like, I got to, fix this. I fixed it, and then I finished the movie. And when I finished the movie, I put all the stuff in the movie. Like, oh, yeah, like, hey, by the way, I got addicted to all this stuff. And blah, I put it all in the movie because I think it's important for people to see the real truth. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's so brave of you and whatever. I'm like, I don't think it was brave at all. It's just like, that's just who I am. Like I'm going to try to tell the truth as much as I can and try to give people a good message. However, I've learned along the way a lot of really awesome things that can really help people. Like, for example, a lot of people have used Kratom to get off of opioids. You can't promote it that way. You can't sell it that way. Obviously, it's not approved for that or anything. But I've literally seen people come off of alcohol, come off of opioids, come off of all sorts of drugs, just by simply taking Kratom as a sort of like a substitute. But there's also a drug called ibogaine. I made a little short film about it. Ibogaine is from Africa, and it's a tree bark, and it literally reverses every addiction known to man. It also got rid of all of my chronic pain for about 4 months. It's the most incredible plant I've ever seen or heard of.
For 4 months?
Yeah, it's a psychedelic, and it's an insane trip. You see like a whole movie of your life like playing in your head. You revisit all like the past, traumas and things that have happened in your life.
Scare me.
And it's a couple-day trip, and it's wild. It's like a roller coaster ride. And I came out of it with like absolutely no pain, no depression, no anxiety, like feeling the best I've ever felt in my entire life. However, the day that I came out of my ibogaine haze, was the day the whole world got shut down. So it was March 16th, 2020. And so I was all ready to go out and attack the world, and then everything shut down. And so then I had 10 weeks of like being completely isolated on my own, no gym, no nothing. I just walked every day. But I feel like I almost want to do it again because it literally felt like I was reborn.
Wow.
But I was like reborn, and then had this like long period of time, and then this whole thing has lasted like 2 years, right? So it wasn't really just 10 weeks. It was like a really long time of just kind of like being isolated. I'm single now, so I was by myself, the whole time.
Right.
And it was just kind of like this whole past 2 years has been terrible for me because I've been really by myself. Like I moved to Northern California, and the only person that I have around me really all the time was my brother, so now things are getting more back to normal, and it's cool. But I think that, like I said, support systems are a big deal. And if you don't have them, it's easy to fall back into bad habits.
Yeah. I grew up without really having a good support system, if any. And that's just to kind of give like to people who are watching, who are in that position, who are like, well, good luck then, because I don't have that support system. A lot of people who don't have that, you can use that also to build resilience, right, and to become stronger. And you can use those experiences, like if you really want to, like I think David Goggins had a zero support system and struggled with a lot of things. Now, I don't think he struggled with addiction, because I know addiction can be a pretty tough. But still, like you have examples out there that you can take inspiration from who have done it and can help you do it yourself. And I think, sharing your story is first of all, is rare, but it's really important what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. The irony to me is I say meat is the fuel and plants are the medicine, and I really, really, truly believe that. So like, I believe like you eat meat, but then it's okay to take some mushrooms now and then. It's okay to smoke some marijuana now and then.
Yeah.
It's okay to have some kratom now and then. I think like these things can really, really benefit people. Like the things that I've seen, like psilocybin mushrooms do for people's like depression, My ex-girlfriend, the one that it's ironic too, because like I got sober, but I never say sober because I don't want to insult anybody, because I still use like psychedelics. I'll
Right,
still use marijuana if I want to. I don't use it all
right.
the time, but if I want to.
But you're
Um,
not dependent upon it.
yeah, exactly. And none of this stuff I'm dependent upon anymore. I've learned that there are like, I don't know, people say there's no good food and bad foods. I'm really not a believer in that. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
chocolate cake benefits really anybody, stuff like that. But
Right,
and I
right.
think the same can go for drugs. Like, I know people like to say, well, there's no bad drug, it's how you use it and blah blah. But like, I don't think people should be injecting heroin and snorting cocaine and drinking
True.
alcohol all the time and
Right.
whatever. Like, but I do feel that some of these other things like mushrooms, like there's never been an overdose on mushrooms. You can't die from
Right.
them, right? You
Oh, I
can't.
didn't know that.
People could die from ibogaine potentially, but what's really crazy about it is the way that people die from ibogaine is that they take ibogaine and it completely resets all the neurotransmitters in your body, including the ones
Yeah,
for pain. So it like
yeah.
resets. It's like a reset. We actually call it the
Okay,
red pill reset, and
okay.
so when you do that, your tolerance on everything will go way down. It'll be like you never took an opioid before. So say you have a really high
Uh-huh,
tolerance to opioids, you do ibogaine,
uh-huh.
it's like you have no tolerance. And then the person relapses and goes back to their drug of choice, they could potentially have an overdose because now it's way too much for them because their body doesn't
But they still
remember.
have the habit of a certain dose that they're used to taking, so that becomes
Yeah, what it's
problematic.
kind of like an etch a sketch. Like when you shake the thing, it wipes out. It doesn't wipe out your memory, but it wipes
Yeah.
out the neural pathways that you've been stuck in. Like you've been stuck in this
Wow.
rut, and then it just disrupts them so that you can go out and do other things. And I actually feel that coming up, that I think psilocybin mushrooms are going to be used for diet and weight loss. Like they make you not
Really?
want to eat, and so I think like microdosing of these psilocybin mushrooms might be a great way for people to like lose weight. You just don't feel like eating.
Huh, that's very interesting. That's probably
And
also part of a self-defense mechanism because I see that with caffeine. So caffeine is a natural insecticide of coffee, the
yeah,
coffee plant. And the reason why it suppresses your appetite and your thirst signals is it's trying to kill you, basically. Now, not you, the insects, but that's its self-defense mechanism. By the way, that's that's Hachi, my dog.
oh, how
In
cute.
the past couple of days, he has learned how to open the door.
That's amazing.
And so I was teaching this morning class, and out of the blue, he does exactly what he's been doing
He
right
pops
now,
in.
and like he can open a bifold door. So I had put him away to make sure he doesn't do that with our interview, but
Oh, I like him.
supervision was not around, I guess, for like 2 minutes, and
Yeah. Hey,
so sorry about
so
that. I'm
before
pretty sure
we
he'll
get
sleep.
off of here, I'd like to see, because I think you're a great inspiration to
Thank
women.
you.
What does it look like every day for you? Like as far as like your eating goes, like do you have any like special habits or what does a day look like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I lift heavy every day.
I like that.
So every day we go to the gym. I do, let's say, 45 minutes every single day, except maybe one day of recovery. And I don't plan a recovery, it just happens. I also like my sprints. So I'll do sprints and interspersed with a little bit of jogging,
Run like just running on a track or something?
running. I have a treadmill that's literally right next to me here, so
Awesome.
I'll do that. And I will also do so I won't sprint every day. I'll lift every day, but every other day I'll do my sprints. And then on the days where I don't do sprints, I take a lot of dance classes. This is something also that you see on my YouTube channel. I
Oh,
have
cool.
like dance workout classes, but I want to make them, like, I've stopped doing them because I just want to improve like the production of it. So I'm constantly preparing for that. So that's why I'm always taking dance classes. And that's my workout. Now, with regards to my diet, it's mainly eggs and bacon for breakfast. And for lunch, I'll do chicken thighs and bacon a lot recently, just because I'm cutting. And so when I'm cutting, it's I know we're supposed to just do red meat, but it's just so tempting to go with a slightly leaner meat. So I'll go with the chicken thighs and bacon a little bit just to give it, some extra fat.
That's what
And
I do
then
with my
I'll do
Piedmontese beef. I eat Piedmontese beef which is leaner,
Yeah.
so I can have some bacon because I love bacon. I don't need a lot of bacon, but just a little here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what, because see, I didn't even know about them. So that's why I did the chicken thighs, but that's a great idea because then you get so many more nutrients, especially something that I found out the other day called NAD, which is kind of like the one thing that's going to slow down aging. It's like all anti-aging research focuses
Yeah.
on
I've done
NAD.
that, the NAD drip.
You did.
Yeah. I've tried
And
everything. I try I'm like a guinea pig for everything.
that's amazing. You're
I
a
don't,
biohacker.
I didn't, I only did it one time. I think a lot of these things you have to do multiple times and it's very
Mm,
expensive. It's like I got it done for free just because like we're lucky and we know people. So somebody
right.
did it for me for free, but they're not going to do it for free like 10 times. So they did it free for
Right.
once and then usually it's like $900. So it's like that was the end of
Wow.
it for me.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah. And I
just
guess the only way, say that again.
it didn't. I don't know what it did. Like it didn't. I didn't. I don't know. But I guess, like you said, it's working on a cellular level at like a bunch of stuff that maybe you don't feel.
Yeah, well, supposedly it's supposed to restore the NAD plus levels that naturally decline as you age. And so when you restore that, the idea behind it is that you're going to reverse aging. And Dr. David Sinclair, who's a very famous
Yeah, I know
Harvard
him. Yeah.
anti-aging researcher, he does that with his animal models, and at least, well, he gives them a precursor to NAD. He gives them NMN, which boosts NAD production in their cells, and he was able to literally reverse aging in a mouse. Yeah, it was a mouse model, and you can see it on the treadmill outrunning another mouse that is of the same age chronologically,
Yeah.
but biologically it looks older. It's got white fur. It's slower
Huh.
and it can't keep up with the treadmill. So it's quite like shocking results
Yeah.
with
The
that. But
It's interesting because David Sinclair seems to be brilliant, and then when they talk about diet, he doesn't really know anything. And then you're like, well, how are you the anti? Like it makes me not
yeah,
like, okay, great, you have all this longevity information on you know,
yeah,
on these drugs, but what about the food? It's got to be important, And
yeah.
I don't know.
And
I
he's
wish
more
I just saw more
plant-based.
of that. It seems like the diet's kind of lazy for him. Like it's not that important. It doesn't seem that important. It seems like drugs over diet in a lot of his
Yeah,
stuff.
because
So
that's his focus, that's his career. He's well known around the world for his research, being a Harvard researcher. I think when you are put in situations like that where you're employed and you have so many things hanging on a certain thing, as opposed to, let's say, being completely free of all shackles,
yeah,
those things I think affect where you direct your attention. And I remember he was on a podcast with Dr. Paul Saladino again, and and Saladino was grilling him on the red meat thing, and he was agreeing with him. And then at the end, he was like, "Yeah, but my wife likes the animals, and my kids like that really is a major driving force in
yeah,
what people choose to think is healthy or not." And I think it's unfortunate because it's like a whole other world that you can work with, that can supplement your area. It's frustrating, of
yeah.
course.
I always say like Disney kind of ruined it for us because they made all these cartoons with all these talking animals that are really cute. And we just, we're like, well, you can't kill the
We
cow, you
can't
can't
kill
kill
them
the chicken because
anymore. Yeah,
yeah, they're like our
yeah,
friends,
yeah.
right? And
But
it's
what
like,
about the crop deaths? They should make cartoons with, spiders and rabbits and deer being brutally murdered during the harvest season. So
yeah,
maybe
right,
then,
yeah. But
so
it's
maybe
like
that'll even out.
and that's the fact of the matter is like there is no kill diet. Everything, every diet, even, I mean, like, look, you can pull up articles that plants have feelings and they communicate with each other, you know.
True. Yeah,
So you're like, well, why kill the plants? That's mean, like they're just sitting
yeah,
there doing nothing. They're completely innocent. You come and chop it up, and then somebody's like, yeah,
that's
but that's stupid. They
true.
don't feel pain. It's like, hey, there's arguments that they do, right? So like, what are we really doing? And I feel like I don't know, in my mind, I think producing animals for food and doing it very efficiently isn't so bad. One last thing I wanted to ask you is, how do
Sure.
you feel? Do you feel there's any difference with the grass-fed and grain-fed meat as far as health outcomes go?
In an ideal world, yes, for sure. Go with the grass fed. It's always, always going to outperform your conventionally raised. But I think that whenever that question comes up, I don't want people to take it like I can't afford grass-fed, and so I'm just not gonna eat meat. Any kind of meat you're gonna get is going to improve your health like 80 to 90% better than whatever you were eating before.
Yeah, there's only
Even if
one
it's
study about that. I think it's from Texas A&M, and I can't really trust it because it actually says that grain-fed beef is like slightly healthier and slightly better for the environment, right?
there's
You
always
should
gonna
look.
be that one study
Yeah, you
that
should look
shows,
into it, but like,
yeah.
but it's
But
hard to believe
I'll
because
send
it's
it to me.
funded by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, which is like a
Right.
grain-fed. Like 97% of our cattle are grain-fed.
Or
So
grain
it's like
fed.
I feel
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
did it. I
Yeah.
feel like it's a fake study almost. I don't know.
Yeah, most studies are funded by certain special interests, and it's always that when somebody funds a study, even as much as we love the cattlemen and as much as we, love a carnivore diet, it's true that whenever it is funded by a certain entity, all often like it's something like 60% more positive results compared to if it wasn't funded by that entity. Not only that, if somebody funds that entity of that study and it shows something very negative, they can even choose to not publish it. Right. And it's not like the person who gave the money is telling the researchers you can publish it because that's unethical. But those researchers are starving for money. Do you know how difficult it is to obtain grant money? 90% of grant proposals get rejected. And that's after you have toiled away in a lab to get your PhD, and then you do a postdoctoral research 2 to 4 years. Most people do 4 years. And then after that, now you finally get a position as a professor, which, by the way, only 5%, 3 to 5% only of professors get a job as a professor at a university within 5 years of graduating.
Wow.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And so by the time you've done all these things, now it's time for you to obtain grant funding, because a lot of research universities, they won't even pay you your full salary. They'll be like, okay, we'll pay you half or 70%, but you're responsible for the rest.
Wow.
Like what? That they did that at the University of Miami. I know a lot of professors that I worked with, they were responsible to obtain their own funding.
Is
And in
that where
return,
are you at
yeah,
University of Miami or you went there?
I did. I got my PhD at UM. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The lead specialist in ibogaine, that drug I was talking about,
He's there.
Dr. Deborah Bash, she's out of University of Miami. That's why I interviewed
Oh,
her. Yeah.
interesting.
Really interesting
Yeah.
stuff. All
Yeah.
right.
It
Well,
was fun days.
yeah, I don't want to keep you on here forever. It was awesome
Right.
to meet you and
Me too.
and talk with you and get some information. And I'd like to continue this another time when we have like more stuff that comes up and more more things to talk about. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is exciting. I'm very glad that we got to do our first collab.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty more
I
in the
would love to
future.
get you in touch with Piedmontese beef too. So I'll just text you about that, and I'd love to get them to send
Wonderful.
you some meat just so you can try it. I think it's just a really cool product, a leaner beef. So way to go.
I'm all for it. Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, and thank you so much for being out there on Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. So where can people find your YouTube channel and your Instagram?
Yeah, so my YouTube is Dr. Sarah with an H, Zaldivar. The Instagram is at Dr. So Dr. dot Sarah with an H dot Zaldivar. That's it. It's pretty easy to find me. I think not
Yeah,
a
we'll
lot of
pop that
people
up
have
too.
similar names, so it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Facebook everywhere, but mainly it's YouTube I'm focused on, and Instagram I do it just for fun. Really, I don't have like a strategy
And is
or
your
anything, but
YouTube
I share
channel
a lot.
just your name?
Yeah, just my name
Awesome.
everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Great. Well, have a great day and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. Have
No
a
problem.
wonderful
Take care.
day.
See ya.
Bye.